Hi, this is Ken Gidge, and this is The Art of Politics. And as you people may know, this is our second show with a new co-host, William O'Brien, the former Speaker of the House of Representatives right here in the state of New Hampshire. He's now a simple representative as I. Welcome.
Thank you, Ken.
Well,
good to see you again.
How did anybody tell you doing a talk show with a Democrat might not be good for you?
No, they never told me that.
I
suspect there's more pushback with you, Ken, than there is with me.
Well, you see, I told all your Republican friends, I said, we started the show. He said he wanted to start it with a prayer, meaning you, and we started with a prayer. Then I did the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, and you sung the Star-Spangled Banner.
Yeah, and so they realized, that's normally what he does, and so there's nothing interesting there.
Oh, well, actually, I got 300 people who will buy the tape of that for $100.
Really?
Yes, and the Republican Party wants to buy it to get rid of it. And someone asked, could he? I didn't know he could sing. I said he can't.
No,
so
it's true. It's true.
Our show didn't go too bad.
I enjoyed it. I thought it went really well. Hopefully you did.
Yes.
Hopefully the viewers did.
Yes. No, that's true. You are such a good person to have on. I mean, I only wanted one person. That was you, to do the show, because there's a lot of people who are very upset because of yourself last year. Of course, there are a lot of people, obviously, who are very happy with what took place. So we've got two really opposite views, and that's important. But you're picking on this poor David Campbell. David Campbell wanted to raise the gas tax by 15 cents over 3 years.
He does, by 15%, or better understood, by $1 billion.
15 cents?
15 cents.
Okay, not 15%.
No, it's actually 83%. Did I say it's 15%?
Yes.
It's 83% increase. And we should understand that, but it's also $1 billion. Ken, since we were reelected last November, the price of gasoline's gone up about 50 cents a gallon. So, if you pull in, if you have a van and kids are in it and all that, and you pull in to get the weekly fill up, it's going to cost you $5 to $10 more anyway. 10, 20 gallons you're going to buy, and Dave Campbell wants to put another $2 or $3 on top of that. It's the wrong thing to do. And most importantly, Ken, it's unnecessary. It's absolutely unnecessary. We can take care of our road maintenance, these red-listed bridges they talk about. We can take care of all of that if we just don't divert money out of the highway fund. This gas tax, along with registration fees, goes into something we call the highway fund, a dedicated fund. And under the Constitution, we're not supposed to use it for any other purpose than for road repair. And yet, traditionally, by law, we can divert up to 27% of it.
To what?
Part of it goes to the Department of Safety. Dave Campbell wants part to go to trails. He wants.
No, that is part of, I believe, safety and also grooming of trails. Now, we're talking about ski mobiles?
No, we're talking about gas that is purchased other than for motor vehicle use is supposed to be reimbursed to people. Some people don't ask for it.
Nobody asks for it.
Actually, marinas do, large users
okay.
of it do.
Right,
so there is some that goes back.
All right.
And despite the fact that Representative Campbell has been saying that every last dollar will go to bridge and road repair and construction of roads and so forth, there's millions, literally millions, that won't go to that at all.
Well,
but the larger amount is that won't go is of this increase, of this billion-dollar increase over the next 5 or 6 years, do you know that under Maggie Hassan's budget, 330 million of it
Okay, wait,
won't go to road
let us
repair
stay
at all?
on one subject, okay? Because you can certainly do this to me, but you got to back up a little. First of all, you're correct. If we just kept everything as it is set up, just in highways, we probably wouldn't have a problem. But weren't you one of those people who took a little out of this, out of highways to balance the budget someplace else?
No.
You never took anything out of highways?
Certainly, under law, which is RSA 9:9-B, we're allowed to take up to 27%.
So you did then?
And so
But
an amount was
but
allocated
you're blaming
to
him
it.
for doing the same thing you did.
But now we have the representative coming forward and saying, you know, there's a problem here. There's red-listed bridges. I want to impose a billion-dollar tax. Unlike what you Republicans did, and you balanced the budget without new taxes, and you took care of the highways and the bridges without new taxes, I want a billion-dollar tax. So now's the time we have to look at where is this money going.
Yes, but you know something? I love you guys, especially the Republicans. Look, there's no good time for a toothache. We all realize that. We all realize that this is a tourist state. We definitely do need our roads and our bridges fixed. It's true, 27%, as you said, and I'm sure you diverted it, and as he diverted it. But guess what? We are a tourist state. We need our roads and bridges. Now, as I said, it's no good time for toothache, and it's no good time to raise taxes, especially now on gas, where gas is going up so much. I happen to agree with you. But the way you put it, it's as if we're doing 15 cents now per gallon. It's over a period of 3 years.
So you don't need to go to the dentist when all you need to do is brush your teeth and you don't have a toothache. You don't declare a toothache. We don't have a toothache. What we have is funds being diverted in a way that Representative Campbell is saying we need to raise the tax.
We don't have
You're right. It's over about 4 years, if I'm not mistaken. It's
Correct.
3 cents one year, 4, 4, and 4.
Right. We don't have a toothache.
And
but how about the bridge up in Portsmouth?
Let's stop diverting the funds. If we need to build some trails for fishing game.
You admitted yourself that you take the 27%.
And again, but now we're being told these funds are needed because of red-listed bridges. Let's stop the diversion. You know, are we going to be sitting there saying, you did it, therefore I get to do it, and meanwhile the taxpayers being...
But it's okay for you to do it, but it's okay not for Campbell
You know what isn't okay to do? It's not okay to do it and then turn around and say to people, we need to tax you $1 billion more.
No.
We didn't say that. We didn't say that.
And that's for you to say $1 billion more, that's factual. That's true. But that's not
all that I say is factual.
Yeah. No, it's not. I'm going to catch him on some of these things. You wait.
You wouldn't hear me say anything.
Oh, yes. But let us just stop for a moment and talk about one particular bridge up in Portsmouth, where I believe they were inspecting this bridge that goes up and down.
Right.
And the track came off, and it took like 5 days. I'm sure they worked 24 hours a day to get the bridge fixed.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Well, what happens is we're having ships out in the ocean, you know, anchored, waited to come in, and also we've got ships inside the port waiting to get out.
Right.
Millions of dollars lost over, what, 5 days?
Right.
Now, stuff like that's got to get fixed, and you're saying, let us not do what everyone has done, you before, Maggie now, the governor now, but if the money is not there to fix bridges like this in particular, what do we do?
I'll tell you what we do. The money is there. $160 million a year is there that comes in through the gas tax and goes into the highway fund. There's money to take care of these problems if we just don't divert it. We had the luxury.
Well, why didn't you do it?
We had the luxury in past years of not doing it. Under the Democrats in the 4 years before me, they didn't. They diverted it. We diverted somewhat less, but we diverted it as well. Now we're being told by Representative Campbell that essentially the diversion has got to the point that we need more money.
Well,
and so I think
when was the last time we raised the gas tax?
Oh, it was in the 1990s. But if we don't need to do it, we just don't raise taxes because
we
haven't done it in a while.
Under your you know, being speaker, you said you took some out. You didn't take it all out. You know, we'll talk about the budget. You know how tight the budget is. Guess what? There comes a time when we must realize that this is a tourist state. Yes, the money is not there. Somehow we got to get the money. 5 cents a gallon to get those bridges fixed and our roads fixed.
5 cents
it's not a big
5 cents a
problem.
gallon is $40 million a year. We divert more than that each year. If we just stop diverting it, we don't have to tax our neighbors.
But you
it's not time to do it.
did the same thing that he's saying to do.
And we were able to do it without raising the tax. Dave Campbell is saying we can't do it without raising the tax.
But let the roads and the bridges deteriorate.
They didn't deteriorate.
Did you fix any roads and bridges?
Yeah, $160 million worth a year, absolutely.
I guess we go on and on about this one.
No, I mean, what we have is this terminology we call red-listed bridges. Now, you know, what people haven't asked, I think, sufficiently is how does a bridge get red-listed, and why are there bridges out there that have been red-listed for 2 decades and haven't fallen down?
And a few right in your area, by the way.
And haven't fallen down. I mean, I think what happens is that this concept of red-listed sounds really good. It's a real great marketing term. You hear red-listed bridge, and you're going to drive around that bridge. But in point of fact, it doesn't mean a bridge is ready to fall down in all instances. It does mean there's a bridge there that maybe a highway engineer says, well, there ought to be a sidewalk across that bridge. Let's red-list it. Or maybe it should be a little bit wider because there's more traffic than there used to be on it. So
or it might need to be simply as painted or cleaned, or maybe cracks filled or reinforced a little.
Or whatever.
But there are some bridges out there that take a lot of money. For instance, that bridge we talked about earlier in Portsmouth is, what, $500 million, for God's sake.
Sure. So, and we collect what we call road tolls, but it's really gas tax. 18 cents a gallon we collect, and we send 6 cents of that elsewhere other than roads. All we're saying is before you raise the gas tax by 3 cents one year, 4 cents the year after, take that 6 cents and use it to repair bridges along with the other 12 cents a gallon rather than diverting it elsewhere. We had the luxury to do it in the past. You can keep on saying you did it. You know,
well, you did it.
In terms,
That's true.
You might be, you're aware of this. When I'm on the House floor, I didn't even vote for the budget. I just presented this.
Oh,
it's you guys. It's the House. It's the House as a whole.
The Speaker doesn't vote unless it's to.
Why are you blaming me? You won't find my vote there.
Well, I did ask David to come on. I did ask, and I believe he did a show today.
I'm told, yeah, he did a close-up.
Or something like that. So also the person he debated, just bring him in. There's only 2 of you. I think one Democrat can, you know, handle 2 Republicans.
Well, if you bring in Dave, I think I can handle both of you. I'm not sure about Dave, but
no, Dave is very good. He's not confrontational.
He's a good guy.
He is not. He's just not that. He's just not a confrontational person. I am, and you are, obviously, and that's probably why the show is either going to go good or we're going to strangle each other on the 3rd or 4th show.
He should be able to do that. Isn't he about twice the size as you and me put together?
Yeah, we're little guys.
I know, but there's
the
safety
big guys
in there.
always had
there's safety in that.
And by the way, talking about, you know, not little, but trying to make you more human. In the 1960s, did you go to a particular place called Woodstock?
You know, Ken, there's just nothing that I can say to you that you aren't going to throw right out there.
Well, you did say not to, so he went to Woodstock, and of course, did you inhale?
No. I was a young kid. I was 17 or maybe just 18.
Woodstock, and you didn't inhale?
No, it's just not. It just never was my thing.
No beers?
Actually, champagne. Actually,
okay.
I can tell you about the champagne.
So drinking underage.
No,
there we go.
No, you remember in New York at that time, you could drink when you're 18. And so it was August of 1969, and so my 18th birthday was July 20th, when we landed on the moon, was my 18th birthday, July 20th, 1969. And so I was at a party, and some people said, you know, there's going to be this rock concert out in New York, and would you like to go? And I said I sure would. So we jumped in a car. Good friend of mine's car is actually his dad's car. 4 of us went out there, got to about 20 miles before Woodstock, and the New York State Police had set up a roadblock.
Yep.
And so my good friend, whose dad owned the car, and another fellow just said, we're going to walk in, because they didn't want more cars in there. And so we didn't see him for another month or so.
And it was his car?
It was his dad's car. We returned the car in about a week to his dad. So
How was it?
Oh, it was fun. We had a good time. We ended up driving up to the roadblock, and we noticed that there were some tools, and it was a Volkswagen convertible, of course. And we noticed that there were some tools in the back, and so we said to this state police officer, "We're the plumbers." And he go, "Yeah, we heard that the water systems are broken down. We're the plumbers." And for some reason, because
You're kidding me.
maybe it was the best story I'd heard in a while, he said, "Oh, all right, go on in." And so we
Wow.
went past, we drove up there, came across, you remember Gracie Slick and
Oh, yes.
Jefferson Airplane?
Yeah.
Or what were they
White
called?
Rabbit.
Yeah, we came across her and her group in a Hertz truck. They were stuck in the mud, and as we were on the way in, so we helped them push the truck out of the mud and got up to, actually we drove it right up. There was like a crossroads right at the top of the hill, and one corner of the crossroads is where the stage was. So we were able to kind of like maneuver
You're kidding me.
the car right up there and
Oh my God.
and kind of watch the concert.
Because you didn't inhale and they didn't drink
Didn't
anything
inhale,
other than sugar. Yeah,
kept my
yeah.
clothes on, and
Okay, yeah,
all those
right.
things.
Yeah.
I know you're going to ask
I've
that.
got pictures.
If you have pictures, it's like some handsome 18-year-old kid with his clothes on.
Well, it's a good thing you were handsome then, because right now it's...
No, as I've told you, even you didn't mention this, that if I knew I was going to be a TV star like you, I would have had spent a much cleaner life, much more exercise. It all would have turned out better.
well, look at me. But just for Woodstock for a moment, because this was a historic moment in history, and you saw everybody.
Yeah, Jimi Hendrix.
I mean, my God, everybody was there. And now, I had a small story about Woodstock. I was working in a bar in Boston, a place called Dino's. I swear to God, that was the name of it, outside of Kenmore Square. But these guys were, I would say they were connected somehow, but it was still a really lively place. So I had a bartender, Jimmy, a friend, who said, "Hey, I got some tickets for a concert." He says, "It's going to be Sunday. I can't go. I got to work." "You're not working. You take the tickets." So I put them here. And halfway through the night, I said, "No, Jimmy, you take them. There's nothing. I can give them to somebody else." He said, "No, you take them." So I put them in my pocket. And just before I was leaving, I took them on. I said, "Jimmy, I can't use them." And I left. The next day, Woodstock comes on. I calls him. I said, "Jimmy, you still got those tickets?" And he said, "They're being framed as we speak."
Oh yeah, I was going to say, have you seen them? They're $8 tickets. It's kind of amazing for the whole weekend. Didn't it like start on a Thursday or Friday or something like that?
It's still going on, I think.
No, we left without tickets. We figured we could just buy some at the gate or whatever it was. We had no idea what it was.
You mean you snuck into Woodstock too?
There was no sneaking in. There was.
Were you with the plumbers?
Well, first of all, how many tickets were they selling? Like 60 or 75,000. 500,000 people came.
Yeah.
And so the concept of tickets was lost within the first half hour.
Well, talking about money, let's get back to money. I mean, I love this story about Woodstock. Anybody? In fact, there are people up there now who are still there who give tours of what? A grassy place. And he said, if every single person who I've met went to Woodstock, it'd be about 9 million people.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of people there. You remember the story why they put it in Woodstock? Do you know why it was there?
No.
Yeah, because Bob Dylan lived in the area, and they were trying to get Bob Dylan to come to the concert. So they figured he's just not going to be able to resist it if we're a town or two over. Where do you live, in Bethel or something like that?
I don't know.
Yeah, if you lived a town or two over, we have all these people coming, all these groups coming. Everybody's going to be there. They figured he was the big thing at the time. They figured.
And they had a couple farmers or one farmer who just said, "Oh, I don't care."
Yeah, what's the guy's Max something?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. That was just what a time that was. And I'll tell you, and I've said this before on the air, not with you, but with other people. Listen, if you know anyone from the '60s, find us, track us down, because I say the '50s began in '58 and ended in '72. Let me tell you, nobody has had moments like that in history. And I don't care what anybody says. Come on, the computers, the music, not to call the drugs and everything, but the assassinations. I mean, but then we end it with landing on the moon.
69, yeah. We shouldn't go too far into this because I know that we're going to just disagree entirely. I think the 1960s and early 70s were a disaster for our culture.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. absolutely.
Oh, that's interesting.
We lost this concept of self-control, personal responsibility, and our democracy only works well if people take responsibility for
How
themselves.
in the world can somebody who went to Woodstock make such a statement? You think the 60s were bad?
Oh, absolutely.
For
The
us?
amount of drug use was terrible. I thought so at the time. The lack of personal responsibility. The lack of personal control.
Okay, let's go. Let's go.
You know
let's
what? It
go
was a real
from
disaster.
one from the other. You want to do drugs? I'll say computers. Go ahead.
Well,
Say something else.
Computers started actually in World War II.
Well,
where
but come on.
They were
We-
using this
we
technology
yes, now they're
for bombing targeting.
starting to build the internet. So I'll say computers. Say another
The
one.
internet didn't start till the DARPA project in the
Music?
19
You're still listening to the music of those days.
No.
Writers,
There's nothing.
art.
See, nothing is an unmitigated good or bad. I think overall, the effect on our culture of this atmosphere of do it if it feels good, lack of personal responsibility, has been a disaster. For people who are educated, Vietnam War was a real problem, wasn't it?
Kennedy being assassinated.
All of
Dr.
those
Martin
issues,
Luther
all those
King.
issues. But see,
Landing on the moon.
for
And everything that came from that.
for people who have less education, for people whose families had fewer financial resources, adopting the behavior, the irresponsible behavior that characterized the 1960s is a disastrous choice.
I cannot believe this. Of all the things I would disagree with you about would be the 1960s. Are you kidding me? The problem is you see a Woodstock and everybody thinks everybody's that way. That's not true. I actually was pretty straight. I mean, honest to God, I didn't. I tried all the drugs. It didn't interest me. I drank a lot. That didn't interest me. What interested me was doing creative things.
No,
okay?
I mean, I was the only short-haired guy at Woodstock. My dad was a colonel in the Army.
You didn't get beat up or?
No,
I'm the plumber. That worked out good.
No, that's probably why I got.
Hold on a second. Let me see. You said the 1960s were the times when one didn't take responsibility. One didn't.
No, I'm not saying. I didn't say one didn't take. I said what it was a cultural change where not taking responsibility for yourself, not really taking responsibility for those around you.
I'm leading someplace. Go ahead. No, you. Go ahead.
I'll let you lead there
because. All right.
Because I'll wait till you get there and then pull the rug out from under you.
No, you're not. Not this side. Oh, here is the master sitting who was so good. Yet, you're the only one I know who snuck into Woodstock by saying you were a plumber.
But everybody snuck into Woodstock. As I said, they weren't taking tickets.
No. That's not going to work with me. I'm sorry. And of course you didn't inhale. I think, I happen to think the 60s were terrific. Not all of it, obviously.
It wasn't terrific. Look at one statistic. We started off the 1960s in the illegitimacy rate in the African American community was about, I think, around 20%, a little under 20%. The illegitimacy rate in the community as large was under about 5%. We ended that period with an illegitimacy rate that is more like it is now. It's got a little bit worse over the past several decades, but in the African American community, the illegitimacy rate is about 80%. Among the community as a whole, the remaining part of it's about 30 to 40%, I believe, maybe just a little bit higher. That's a disaster for kids, and that is a direct.
We know that, that's understandable. You can't say that's directly from the 60s.
Oh, it is. It is directly from the cultural change that started and was and exacerbated.
I don't agree with you.
I think part of the problem was that you and I came from a generation that overwhelmed the social mores at the time. This baby boom generation. We had indulgent parents who let us do what we want and didn't require us to grow up quickly. We came out of very.
I wasn't brought up. I was let up.
We came out of astoundingly prosperous times, relative to what had been. Do you know? I could keep on going.
I know that, but let's move on. After I'll make a statement, let you, and let's move on. Look, in the history of humanity, though there was chaos in the 1960s and people just didn't take care of themselves. And you can turn and you can say, hey, guess what? It's still going on. But nobody can deny the incredible technologies that came out of there, the arts that came out of there, the music that came, the writing, the literature, the building, the inventors, the construction, and then, you know, we final off the 60s, landing on the moon. You just don't get stuff like that. You get a lot of it by neglecting being a good person because of the drugs, et cetera, that went along with it. But the 60s are very, very important. That's my opinion. Your opinion?
That wasn't you and I doing that.
No,
that was that was folks that were born in the 20s and the 30s doing that.
Oh,
our
no.
contribution to the culture, no, our contribution to the culture, what we refer to as the 60s, has not been positive.
Well, I had just happened to disagree with you, but let's see if we can agree on something. It says here, and we have the paper right here. It's from the Telegraph, by the way, and this is the front page. High-end casino may be a gamble. Now, are you for gaming in the state of New Hampshire?
I get very concerned when it comes to casino gambling and the expansion of gambling over both the effects that it'll have on individuals. You know, I've seen some studies that indicate that addiction rates are directly related to how close a casino is. I get concerned about that.
Such as one in Massachusetts, which is about 15 miles away.
I understand.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's going to come over here.
Yeah, I understand. You know, and that could be a battle loss. But I do get concerned about putting a casino right in New Hampshire for that reason. I get really concerned about what the effect on government and politics would be. You know, it used to be that in the mid-19th century up to the 1930s, the legislature was substantially controlled by the railroad interest in New Hampshire.
And that's the reason why we have 400 state representatives.
Right. It certainly was to exacerbate it. But they used to give, you and I, if we would have been representatives back in that period, we'd each get 2 passes to go anywhere in the railroads in New Hampshire. And those were very valuable. This was the days before automobiles.
Yes.
That would have been just quite a perk. And,
Yes.
you vote against the railroads, you would have lost them. They'd yank those right away. And so I cite that as an example of the concern I have with a highly regulated industry that involves a lot of cash and is very dependent on legislation coming out of
Have you spent any time in Vegas? You been in Las Vegas?
Yeah, I have.
Do you gamble?
No, I don't.
I'm not either.
Yeah, the problem is I just don't have the mentality for gambling. I've gone to a slot machine. You spend like $5, $10, or $20, and I sit there and I get very bitter.
Restaurants?
Pardon me?
Restaurants in Las Vegas? I mean,
well, you know,
the point I'm trying to make
in terms
is,
of economic development, I think the better model is probably Atlantic City, New Jersey, where they had this idea that this would just be a boom for the area. And what they found is that restaurants and businesses in the area suffered. Casinos did really well. They're magnets. They take everything. You know, if you live in Atlantic City, you weren't going to go to, you know, Joe's Bar and Grill that you used to go to. You go to the casino.
That's factual.
So I get
5-star restaurants, 4-star restaurants, you know, it's incredible shops. I spent 30 times in Vegas because my mother and stepfather lived outside of Vegas in a place called Pahrump, Nevada. I swear to God, there is a Pahrump, Nevada. All right. And if the flight came in late at night, I wouldn't drive through the desert. If we left early, I would. So I spent a lot of time in these hotels. And they want you, boom, right in your face. You walk through the door, you got to hear everything. You know, the carpet's that thick. You got to be in another world. But
they pump oxygen into the place.
No, they don't.
They certainly do.
Oh my
and you know
God,
the other thing
that is such a myth.
You know the other thing they do.
Oxygen.
You know the other things they do is they don't have any clocks around, so you won't realize.
No
how long
clocks.
No. They make it seem really plush, so you have this illusion that you're much wealthier than you actually are. So you give up your money. Hey,
like this set we're on.
I've given you reasons that concern me in supporting it. Reasons that I think I might support it is I'm enough of a libertarian that if you want to gamble, I mean, it's your life. You're an adult. Make your own decision. So in terms of trying to control people's behavior from doing what I don't find as admirable adult behavior, go do it.
Well, you know, I did
and
make a suggestion. Of course, the bill was a little too early, and that was what really upset me. I took my son there. My mother was dying, and I took my son to Vegas. And the problem was, if we wanted to go swimming, you know, you had to walk through the gaming area. You wanted to go to a restaurant. You wanted to go to a show. You wanted to just go get a taxi cab, anything.
Right.
And my suggestion was for the people here in New Hampshire is game free. Instead of taking a right, you take a left. Now, that doesn't mean there's any different rooms. That doesn't mean the pools are different. It means nothing. It just means a family can come in if you don't want to do gaming and just enjoy, you know, the plush areas.
Sure, which I gather is the way some people treat those casinos down in Connecticut. You know, they're not gamblers, but they go there for shows. And they go
Oh,
there
absolutely.
and you know, that's fine.
So you against it or you for it?
I want to see the bill come forward, but I wanted to give you an illustration of the type of analysis and going through, which is, you know, one, I feel people who are adults ought to be left to their own devices. If it only harms them, then another concern I have is if we start giving out monopoly licenses to businesses, I get very concerned about that. In other words, we say one person can spend $80 million, I think that's what Governor Hassan is suggesting, for a license to have one casino. Well, how's that fair to the folks, if it's going to be in Salem, how's that fair to the folks up in Lincoln that need some jobs?
And how about the folks over in Hudson, New Hampshire, where there's a big place and it's close to the border?
Sure.
I happen to agree with you. And one reason why, look, we want people to visit New Hampshire, not just for gaming.
Sure.
These places, if they had a gaming area in Nashua and or Salem, and they had one up in the Lakes region, to bring people into New Hampshire and then either to have day trips and or several days traveling the state, as long as they would, you know, gravitate back towards their hotels, etc. I think that's really, really important.
Now, let me finally say this, and the other issue that I would be thinking about as I look through a bill, whatever bill comes to us, is that as a revenue solution in terms of, you know, us running government and everything, it can be a mirage. Do you know the last casino that is opened in New Jersey just went bankrupt last week?
What has that got to do with us?
Because we're getting to the point of saturation.
But you're scaring me. I know, but New Hampshire's not saturated. In fact, if you go to Foxwood, you see a lot of New Hampshire plates.
Sure, but we're not competing in just a marketplace that would be New Hampshire. We're competing in a marketplace that has gambling in Maine. Intensive gambling will come to Massachusetts. So I'm not sure if it's...
You know what changes all that stuff is how the hotels present themselves.
Sure. So you probably saw the report come out in the last day or two in the paper, and they're talking about how, I think it's from Steve Norton's Policy Center, the group that looks at revenue sources and so forth. And he's saying that the revenue that's going to come out of this is much less by their analysis than what has been anticipated, to the point that he's not even, the report, if I read it correctly, they're not even sure that they're going to be able to address...
break even.
Yeah, address all of the...
But why don't we look at it in the other way? Breaking even to me is fine. How about making nothing and taking care of some of the problems of people? And there are problems. There are people, I'm not a gambler, you're not a gambler, maybe $100 in a week. Okay, that's nothing compared to gaming. I've seen people drop $2,000. You couldn't get them away from the tables. But if it's so close to New Hampshire, you're going to get that blowback, as the people are just going to come back to New Hampshire with all those problems.
Well, again,
then what do we do?
And again, I'm
breaking
not really,
even
I'm not
means
really
you
sure.
take care of everybody.
I think I struggle with this, like a lot of representatives, a lot of people do, because, you know, particularly someone who feels that I am on most issues sort of libertarian. I want to leave people alone, but I get concerned about another issue, which I brought up, which is corruption. I have a brother who's an attorney in Rhode Island, just recently retired, but one of the cases he had was he represented a British executive who ran a company that owns, is the place down there called Lincoln Downs, I think it is?
There was, yes.
Yeah, and they had slots machines
That
there.
was Rhode Island?
Rhode Island, yeah.
Lincoln Downs, yeah.
And the allegation in the case was that he had put together, this client of my brother, put together a scheme to bribe the Speaker of the Rhode Island House of Representatives in order to get, can't remember exactly, more days that they could have the slot machines open, more racing days, something like this.
Yeah, but if
Highly
you were,
regulated
but if you were
industry.
Speaker of the House, could they buy you? No.
And nor did they even approach that speaker based on the allegation in the case. It was just a conspiracy to do it. And I don't want that to be going on in New Hampshire. I don't want the people to have to depend on that there's somebody who's as moral and honest as I am, sitting
Went
there,
to Woodstock and didn't inhale.
and
Okay.
sitting there and,
Yeah.
and not
As a plumber.
susceptible
Right.
to that. I just don't. I don't think that we need. I guess concerned that we don't need that in our state.
Well, all you have talked about is the ills of it. To talk about some of the good aspects of it, of bringing some very good world-class entertainment into New Hampshire in a wonderful setting where one could go out for the evening and just have an incredible time when they create these hotels. I mean, for them to spend $1 billion, I think they wanted to spend $450 million over to the racetrack, and I thought, that's nothing.
No,
But the thing is that they would double the rooms almost practically than all of New Hampshire. And I certainly can understand why the hotels in areas like that would be upset around that.
I don't disagree with you on any of that, and I certainly want business to have an opportunity to grow, and for private business owners to make a decision whether it's worthwhile to invest or not. I just get concerned about this.
Okay, gaming, no or yes? Yes or no gaming?
I'd have to look at the bill.
Okay, so you're not sure?
Yeah, no.
I'm positive, yes. But again, I'm sort of like, yeah, I'm saying yes, but if the bill was bad, I'd say no.
Right.
All right?
Yeah.
So we're sort of like,
yeah, I
at
mean,
the
we're
same
probably, we
place
might
that-
end up voting the same way, but come at it from many different directions.
Well-
Actually, if we do vote the same way, we always come at it from different
well,
directions.
you know, I'm telling you, you better be good. I will get you. It will take
You will.
time, but
You
I will. Okay.
I'm going way into deficit here. I know you can.
That's right. You remember that. All right. Stand your, and why am I reading this? Because it's so nice about your butt. I will read it because this is important. This is, again, in the Telegraph. I think you guys can see it.
It's impossible.
It says, stand your ground under fire. And it says down here, gun owner groups, leaders hailed O'Brien as the hero for the individual liberties in passing the law over the veto of the Governor John Lynch, meaning you could carry a gun and defend yourself in public. Is this correct?
Stand your ground.
Stand your ground. Explain this to our audience a little more.
All it is just a statutory expression of what our natural right is, which is to defend ourselves.
That's it.
So if we have a lawful, we're lawfully present somewhere and someone presents us with deadly or harmful force, we can defend ourselves. That's all that law says.
Well, I know the Democrats are going to be mad at me, but I agree with a great deal of this here because not probably for the same reasons, but I just think someone should defend themselves. And guess what? If you pick up a rock and somebody's got a gun and you hit them with it and kill them, that's deadly force.
Right.
A person could be taken into jail if we did not have this law.
Presumably.
Presumably.
It presents a defense.
Okay.
And quite frankly, I think it ought to be a defense anyway, but there's been cases out there that have been brought to all of our attention, and certainly my attention, where it seemed necessary to have a statute that expressly states what I think, again, is just a natural
Give
right.
me an idea where.
Well, you know, one case that I was really concerned about was the Ward Bird case, where a person took out, he was standing on the porch of his house, there was someone who passed by a bunch of trespassing signs leading up to his house, which is in the woods, Ward Board, this man came out, as I understand, at least this is the way the facts came out publicly, and showed that he had a weapon in order to make more convincing his request that the person leave. And he was ultimately convicted of, some sort of assault charge.
Yes, I remember that.
I just didn't think that was that was right.
That wasn't right.
And so it's, incidents like that I think.
If he came off his property and he walked over to them and he aimed the gun at him, okay, fine.
There's nothing in this law that allows you to exacerbate a situation. You know, if for example, you're driving along and someone makes an obscene gesture at you or passes you aggressively and everything.
Is that the reason why you carry bricks in your car? For people who...
No,
I don't
do
building
that.
a fireplace?
No, because I've always been a calm guy. I learned at Woodstock to be a calm guy. You know,
Right. You better not stay on that one, boy. I'm going to do some research. I might find some pictures of you.
Oh,
There's plenty of...
Yeah.
But I did want to bring that up. They are, looks probably, and of course they're bringing up that case where supposedly was a 17-year-old boy, and he was black. I mean, it goes to the store and someone's following him, and they get into a fight supposedly, and the person who's in the watching, neighborhood watch group shoots the kid. Supposedly the kid didn't have a gun. Supposedly there was no fight. So I think that's what people are worried about, is that people are going to use this as an example.
I think in that recitation of fact, you better throw in a few more supposedlies because,
Go ahead.
As I understood it, the person who used the gun didn't have to rely on any stand your ground law. He was on his back with the person on top of him who had 6 inches on him, beating the heck out of him. And,
well, that's what
so
what he says, and that's not what the other party says. As a lawyer,
actually, independent witnesses describe that. We don't have to try the case. We weren't there. We don't know.
Okay.
And so, and it's a tragedy. The death of a child, death of a 17-year-old, even if it's a 6-foot 17-year-old, is a tragedy.
Exactly. And if there's any way of not doing that, I think that what people worry about, and I certainly worry about, is that people go out to buy guns just for the sake of having guns and don't know how to use them.
Let me tell you something.
By the way, do you shoot in your family?
I do. I belong to a gun club.
And your wife, does she shoot?
She does. Yeah, she's a much better shot than I am.
Is she really?
Oh yeah, she's quite a good shot.
And she's also an artist. I want to bring that up.
Yeah, she is. I used to, when I was at a law firm, represent the Boston Police Patrolmen's Association.
Ooh.
And one of the things our law firm agreed, because we were under retainer to essentially the Police Patrolmen's Union, was to go out to shootings in order to represent the officers at the shootings. And so I have to tell you that,
So you've gone out to shooting?
Yeah, so yeah, sure. Yeah, and I was one of the partners in the firm, and so we would literally, this would be your weekend if you're going to be around.
Sure.
And so I went to a few of them, and I have to tell you, there's nothing more devastating to an individual, unless you're just cold-hearted criminal, than to shoot someone, and that's the last thing you ever want to do. My heart would go out to some of these police officers who, in the course of their duties, for all the right reasons, had to discharge a weapon and harm somebody.
So we know that sometimes it's not all for the right reasons. Did you ever come across any of those?
Certainly not
This is
among the
probably
officers.
legal things.
Certainly not among the officers
that
that I represented. It's just I just want to tell you that because, among most of us, there's not going to be aggressive use of firearms. No one ever wants to be in that situation. Who cares about other people? It's just devastating.
And I think because I knew that your wife is a shooter, and I knew you also, and that's why I asked the question. All right, look, you understand guns. Let's face it. Last term, I've known since I've got to the House, my third term, that people carry guns. They call them the old timers or whatever. They always carry guns. You knew when it was very hot, we could take off our jackets. Well, there were a lot of people who didn't. Mm-hmm. All right? But then when it came that you could carry weapons in the State House, people just went out and bought them. You know about the ones that fell on the floor. Guys at the bar, look and see what I've got. I mean, that's not what it's about. You don't do that.
Well, without validating any of those rumors of incidents, I will agree with you, certainly, that as with anything, as with any rights that are extended, either as natural rights or by Constitution, there's responsibility that goes with them. You know, there truly is. Just like a right of free speech, there's a responsibility that goes that you don't defame somebody, that you don't lie about people.
You mean like,
and
can you name somebody in your recent past that you were not happy with in the media?
You know, what'd be harder is to try to find someone who I was happy with.
Who you were
happy
with.
I'm happy with you. You're
Boy,
one of these. You're one of these media types.
That's not going to work
yeah.
this time. Last
Yeah,
week was
yeah,
fine. This
yeah,
week is
yeah,
a cutoff.
yeah.
We're moving on.
No, but it's just like in the Second Amendment rights. All these rights is there's an element of personal responsibility that goes with it, don't you think? I mean, don't you agree?
Well, I'll tell you what. You're in the media now. You're gonna as time goes on. Hopefully, this is going to go on. We're going to sign up for a year to see how it works out. But I think what you're going to see is you're not going to do again what happened to you before. And I don't know the exact reason. I believe it was with the Concord Monitor, where you had an argument with these people, and they made some comment, and you would not allow them to be at your news conferences in your office. Do you remember that?
I remember that the Concord Monitor needed an opportunity to withdraw from covering me in order to decide whether they were going to engage in journalistic behavior or propaganda behavior. And so we gave them that opportunity.
Boy, you're a lot better than I thought.
And an opportunity to come back. It was
Well,
always a choice
back.
of theirs.
Well, little advice, having done the radio and all that, don't do that. Always let them in, but scold them in front of the people who are doing it, especially because they did say something. I'm not going to take your side, and I'm not going to take this. I believe the freedom of the media is very, very important.
Right.
Because of the show, we're saying things that you, in other countries, you can't. I and my son sat right there, who came back from China, and I interviewed him. And let me tell you something that's pretty bizarre. And I was a little worried about some of the things he said that if they got back to China, they might not even let him in.
Right.
Some of the things. So we had kind of a good freedom, but I don't think you ever closed the door on the media, but you did have your reasons, and that was before. Now, do you have anything? I've got plenty of stories. How about you got some, Cornerstone. Oh, wait a minute. Let's get through a couple of these first. I want to go over this because I think this is important right here. Health groups oppose higher fees for smokers. Now,
I didn't read that.
Okay. Well, this was in Commerce. And I'm
For some reason, my subscription to the National Telegraph lapsed. And I didn't notice it. It could have happened many years ago.
Oh, here we go.
Well,
did you know we'll have someone for the Concord Monitor here next week?
Oh, good.
This was in my committee, and I think this is kind of so bizarre because, as you know, you do not like Obamacare, but you're not happy with that.
No, I don't like it, and it's any part of it.
All right,
it's
well,
individual
you may like this. Are you a smoker? Cigar smoker? Or?
No, I've stopped all that.
Okay, I have too.
Yeah.
And that's probably why we're still alive right now. Give us a few more years. But this is quite interesting, is that the insurance commissioner came in and said, look, we've got to pass some legislation. And what the legislation is that we must New Hampshire must fall in with what the government within the U.S. government, our government, will be doing in 2014. Mm-hmm. And that is insurance companies are going to have the ability to charge people who smoke a lot more money.
Sure. Yeah.
And it was fascinating to see the lung associations, the cancer people, all against this bill.
Tell me why. Tell me. I'd be interested in why. I'd like to talk to you about it, because this goes to one of the reasons I get very concerned with the Affordable Care Act, Obama Care, and because if you have a government that is both saying we will get insurance for you, and you have to buy insurance either privately or take it through a government plan like Medicaid, they at that point have a right to tell you how to live your life, because there's as we all know, there's
Do
good
you
ways.
think this is one of the reasons? You think this, you're using
I
this as
get
an
I get
example?
concerned. I mean, if for
But it's the insurance
example,
companies. It's
well, yeah,
they,
but
they gave part of the whole deal was giving the insurance, how they passed all of this. Let's face it, they gave the insurance companies all the business, and they gave giving the insurance companies the ability to charge people more who smoke.
and don't you see what they've done though is that they've given a captive marketplace to the insurance companies because they've
Any
said,
other way of doing it?
yeah, there is freedom.
Freedom?
Yeah, you
For
can
what?
just choose not to be insured, and therefore
Choose not to be insured?
absolutely. Because
So
if you look at who is among the traditional group of
not
uninsured,
to be insured.
sure, it's a choice that is made in the past by a lot of people. When we look at those figures, Ken, and who is uninsured, and they'll say, there's I can't remember 40 million uninsured people, and you start parsing apart. Okay, who is this that's uninsured? Certainly, there is a percentage of people who just can't get insured. But they're not the very, very poor because there's always been programs for them. They tend to be, over the area of poverty, but they want to use the money in other ways. So there's some of them. There's also a whole bunch with young people. I went through a period when I was in law school where I didn't have insurance. My father-in-law, who was an engineering type, very, very analytical, went through his adult life, looking at how much insurance would cost, and every year putting that aside until he got to be in his mid-60s, and then he picked up Medicare because it was free at that point. And so he made a decision not to be insured.
Yeah, but that is, but people can't, but there are people who cannot make the decision for all sorts of reasons. A catastrophic, from a heart attack to, you can't, either we take care of people who cannot care for themselves, or it's going to happen what's happening now. People are using their hospitals, emergency rooms as their their doctors. That's costing everyone a lot of money. How do you stop that?
We have programs that allow those who don't have resources, even before Obamacare, to get insurance through
Here
Medicaid.
in the state?
Sure, absolutely.
Didn't you want to cut a lot of that out, or did you cut a lot of that out?
No, we didn't cut any of that out. What we did was enact Manage Medicaid, which was a way to make it more affordable. But we didn't cut any eligible.
Affordable to who?
Affordable for the taxpayers. But we didn't cut
Not affordable to the people.
It's
Who
free.
needed
It's
it.
free.
Yeah.
It's free. There's nothing more affordable than free. So what it did was say that we're going to manage their care if they choose to get this free care. And the theory behind it was you hire a company, say, and there's, in order to get this passed, the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMMS, you have to demonstrate there's going to be what they call a maintenance of effort. So you can't reduce eligibility, you can't reduce the level of care. What you can do through Managed Medicaid
Is
is
to make
hire
it harder to get it.
No, not at all.
Not
No.
under your
No,
watch.
not
You
at
don't want
all.
to make it harder to get it?
No, not at all. No, you're conflating two different things. But under the Managed Medicaid bill that we passed, we go to a company and say, you do what we were doing, but you try to make money off of it. And the way they make money off of it is that they manage the health of the people. Now, the classic example.
Now, manage, when you say that, person walks in 200 pounds, manage, you got to lose the weight? We can charge you more if you don't?
That's free. There's no charge there. Again, what they will do with that person is say, here's some services we have available for you. And you didn't have them before because under the old plan, the state plan, it was just fee for service. So we'd let you be 200 pounds. Let's go to a heavier weight than that.
Yeah, we better. Let's go 250.
Let's go 250.
We both feel very comfortable.
Yeah, let's go something a
All
little
right.
heavier because that might still be a healthy weight,
Yeah, I
200.
know.
And so, and so they say you weigh 250 pounds. You know that's not going to go well for you in the end. And we have a nutritionist available for you. We have an exercise. There's a club you can go join. You want to come in every a month or so, and we'll see how your weight's doing and see if there's things that we can advise you on. And the reason that a managed Medicaid company will do this is because they know that even with these additional services, it's cheaper to do that than wait for the guy to have a heart attack or wait for diabetes
that is,
to
and
develop.
there are some countries where doctors don't get paid if the person is sick, so they really make an effort. But
Right.
to
So
get
that was the whole
yeah.
the whole theory there.
But this came through Commerce yesterday, and I never thought there would be such a debate on it. And to see from the cancer people, et cetera, against this bill, I'm thinking to myself, excuse me, we do know when, and they have the statistics, we do know when you charge more for cigarettes, those people smoke. Oh, wait a minute, weren't you the one who took 10 cents? Yeah, okay, we'll get to that later. But we do know that. I just thought I'd sneak that in.
Well, I know, no,
yeah.
and just sneak it in there, and then later on we can talk about the jobs that were saved in border convenience stores and that sort of thing. But
maybe I'll just drop it and move on. But when it came in, I was so surprised to see that these people, and the statistics were quite simply, if you charge more for cigarettes, less people would smoke. So this is going on and on and on. So I get raise my hand, and the committee chair goes, "Oh, here we go." Oh, well, they do this.
You play the same role in committee that I do.
Oh, they take a look at me.
Right.
And I said, "Excuse me, but if you really want to run an ad, and you know that smoking, by charging more for a package of cigarettes, less people are going to smoke. Well, why don't you run an ad in 2014 if you're smoking? It's $1,000 more per month to get insurance, or $500 or $300, and break it down on a pack of cigarettes. So now cigarettes can cost you $12 a pack, and that didn't go over very well.
Well, again, it's a reasonable thing for a private business to do, to come to you as a smoker and say, you know, you're just going to cost me more, and we're going to charge you more. And you can control that by choosing not to smoke. The problem I see is when government has mandated that you be a consumer in that marketplace, and then you're subject to that sort of
But are you saying
behavior.
that we got to go back to where it was? You can't do that.
You talk about freedom is not a disaster. Freedom's a good thing.
Yes, but part of freedom into getting our economy running and our people happy, etc., is obviously having some sort of a health care that everyone can afford. Look, my wife.
We make sure everybody buys broccoli then. You know,
yeah,
let's
my
wife
is a school teacher. All right, so she goes out and applies for insurance. All right. $600 a month, $12,000 deductible. In other words, she can go through the whole year and every single thing, from appointments to doctors to everything. She must reach $12,000 before they'll pay anything. That's catastrophic. Basically, that's what it is. Now, is that any way for anyone, and that's, by the way, this is something I know about, and I've certainly heard, and you too, of cases that are a lot worse than this, people who can't afford it.
Right.
People who are sick are not taking their medicines.
Yeah.
When do we get to the
where
point
to begin,
where
Ken?
it hurts?
Where to begin? We have a system that fails because of government intervention. And so let's double down and put a lot more government intervention. Do you know what the normal policy?
We're talking health. You want to double down?
You want to double. Basically, we've taken an insurance concept, which is if something happens to you bad, we'll be there to help you. And we've made it into a payment transfer system, which is we're going to pay for every involvement you have with the healthcare system. And we've isolated financial responsibility from who is receiving it. If you went to a doctor and the doctor said to you, you know that twist in your ankle there, pretty sure it's just a twisted ankle, but you know I think I'll give you an MRI to see if it's really twisted. And if you were sitting there going, hey doc, I'm going to have to pay $1,000 more if it's an MRI, do we really need it? As opposed to you're sitting there going, honestly, I pay $20,000 a year. Damn right I'm going to get that MRI. We've isolated the financial responsibility for the services from the recipient of the services.
Well,
And-
there's Time Magazine last week, or I'm not sure if they're monthly now.
haven't they gone out of business yet?
See, well, they're online.
Oh, okay.
Steve Brill, who is a writer who takes and breaks these things down, said, you know, really, honestly, if this country wanted to take care of it all should be Medicare. And I'm sitting there going, oh, that won't fly. But he says, you know, you go to an insurance company, and the insurance company will pay $6,000 or $3,000 to have like 3 MRIs, $1,000 or $1,500 a piece. Medicare will only pay $875 for all of them. And everybody's saying they don't want Medicare, but everybody takes it.
Are you aware that Medicare is a free rider? You know the economic concept of free riding, and they don't pay their own way.
No,
You know,
I know.
That's the problem
I know.
with Medicaid expansion. You were alluding to it when I said before.
I know, but we have to do something.
But that's
But you know, we might come to a happy medium here, because I'm against. They want me to get on this bill, and I'm saying I happen to agree with the insurance companies on this, and it's a little difficult sometimes. That if a person wants to smoke, then they should pay more. And that's one of the way, in a sense, to either get people to stop smoking, or people come out with programs, because it's hard for a lot of people. Yeah. It's harder, supposedly, to quit smoking than it is to quit heroin.
Well, yeah, I've heard that. Nicotine is more of an addictive substance. And I have no problem at all with an insurance company going to a prospective insured and saying, unless you change your behavior, we're going to charge you more, because the effect of your behavior is going to be to cost us more. That makes a lot of sense.
That does.
But
yeah.
What doesn't make sense, that whole analysis falls apart if that insured is compelled to do business with you or with someone like you. So if you're going to say to all insurance companies, go surcharge smokers, and the smokers have not only nowhere else to go, but they have to be there. They just can't say, hey, you want to know what? I know I'm doing the wrong thing. I know I'm probably knocking 5 or 10 years off my life. And you've heard them say it. It's sad, but they say, I want to smoke. I want to smoke. And
we know at the State House there's still a smoking room.
Yeah, there's still a smoking room. And so they say, I want to smoke. We have a right to be, we should have a right to be foolish along with intelligent.
I will be making a speech on that coming up soon, that we do have the right to do great, profound deeds. Also, that same freedom gives us the right to make fools out of us.
But that's the problem with Obamacare, is it's basically saying, we know what's better for you. And they can start it, once you go down this road of where you and I would agree it's sensible. If you're going to smoke, why should we?
I agree, but I'll tell you what. Something has to be done. This is not something we're going to settle today. We've got a couple more subjects, but this is subjects that you and I should really talk more about, because I think it's coming. If you like it or not, it's coming. But I found this odd to be sitting down there and see the people who worried about cancer didn't want the insurance companies to charge more, yet they could show the statistics of people pay more for cigarettes, they quit. So it was an odd day. Talking about odd day, why don't we go over to this? Oh, Congress, aren't these your Republican friends who are sequester the government? Aren't we? Weren't you down in Washington with Smithsonian?
When you use sequester, you ought to be more accurate. Say it ought to be called the president's sequester.
Oh, I see. That's what the Republicans.
He's the one that came up with that.
No. That maybe he came up with the name.
Oh, maybe he did.
Yeah. Well, okay. Maybe he came up with the name, but let's face it, we all got to this particular point because the great 6 people couldn't agree, which were 3, so we moved on to something else, and now we're all here. And by the way, everybody agreed upon this little thing taking place, because we never thought, the president never thought, Boehner never thought, McConnell never thought that it would ever go this far.
Hey, Ken, are you okay today? Are you okay today? Because it's going into effect today. I want to make sure.
Before midnight.
I want to make sure. Are you going to hunker down someplace as sequester comes in? It's going to be okay. We spend 3.5 trillion just about. I mean, we don't have a budget, but in terms of spending, we spend $3.5 trillion through the federal government. This is 85 billion. 3.5 trillion, 85 billion.
Yes,
it's
but
less
that-
than
but
2%.
but
We'll be
that's
okay,
not
Ken.
the money. It's not the amount of money. It's where it's going to cut. And that's not the 85 million is not a big deal. We both know that.
You know what the problem with the sequester is? It doesn't happen every month. We've got to stop our spending. We just have to stop. And sure.
Why don't you Republicans agree on something?
We have. We've sent two bills
you're
over.
the guys who won't even bring up in the House. You won't even let people vote on an up and down bill. I mean, come on. I mean, the president sends stuff over. And by the way, one thing. We happen to know that the Democrats run the House. The Senate. Where'd they go? Today. They went home.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah. So.
Look at
It's politics.
I would love it if, and I think we'd all love it at this point, if Washington were more functional but unfortunately, there's just starkly different views of the severity of the fiscal crisis. I join with the Republicans in the House of Representatives in saying we're spending way too much. At 40 cents out of every dollar being borrowed, some from China. We say China, but actually it's just made up money. Most of it now, most of the U.S. Treasury bond issues are being purchased by the Federal Reserve. And you know what they come up with the money to do that? Just journal entries.
Would you agree that the problem is on both sides? You probably think it's more one side than another side. Maybe I feel the same way. Do you think both sides are dysfunctional to a degree?
I certainly think at this point that the fault lies with a president who won't sit down with congressional leadership.
Let's see. And
he's around the country.
Wasn't it McConnell who said 2 years ago, this 2 years is going to be just to get rid of the president?
Actually, I think he said it.
Wasn't it
4 years ago?
Boehner? Okay, 4 years. We don't want him. Wasn't it Boehner who said, I'm no longer going to the White House to sit down and have a cigar with the president anymore? What is going on? Well, I mean, it's your Republicans who are doing this.
The president is out and about demonizing Republicans, trying to make sure that there are crises because he sees political advantage in it. That's where we get disappointed. Sure, they all should sit down, but we're spending $3.5 trillion a year. That's about the rate we're at. We're only taking in about $2.4 trillion. We at some point have to begin to live within our means.
To get back out of the trillion, let's say to the 85 million, remember sequester.
Remember that thing that Everett Dirksen said in the 60s, a billion here, a billion
there? Yeah, after a while.
I guess a trillion here, a trillion there.
But I think what's taking place right now on this is that it's not the 85 billion, because to be perfectly honest with you, 85 billion is a lot, but it's not that much. It's where the cuts are being taken. The furloughing from the air traffic controllers. I mean, it goes on and on. Now, will this take place? I think there's 1 week grace period.
It's slowly phased in, but even if you mentioned the air traffic controllers, so the FAA, even if the sequester takes effect fully, will receive $500 million more this year than it did in 2008. Planes weren't falling out of the sky in 2008. We had a relatively safe system.
They weren't falling out of the sky because we kept upping the technologies.
For $500 million more being received, we can certainly run the FAA. What I'd like that, you and I have either been on school boards, have watched school boards operate. And you remember when there's going to be some cuts, and the administration will always come in and saying, football's got to go. And music programs, that's got to go. And they try to figure out what's kind of popular, that's got to go. And we see a little bit of this going on now. We've got to get rid of, the F-35 program, because even though, it's a popular program, we do need to upgrade our Air Forces, it's just got to go. And so it's all the popular stuff. It reminds me, I don't know if you remember this, about 20 years ago during one of these crises where, the government's going to shut down and all. The first thing they did was, I guess they were reducing the funding of the park department. first thing they did said, well, we can't have the Statue of Liberty open anymore. It's just,
Yes.
yeah, it's just,
Yeah, I know.
it's a lot of it's
That's when
a lot of it's
that's when the
theater.
Republicans were running it, if I remember correctly.
I'm not sure you do, but maybe you
Yeah.
do.
All right. We only have probably about 5 minutes left, and if we have
Right.
more than 5 minutes, I wish Richard would come to the door and let us know, because this clock wasn't set, and I'm not sure exactly where we are. But we can talk about this a little. Here is the Pope. We're without a Pope. I take it, O'Brien, would you be a Catholic?
Yeah.
You're a Catholic. Then I'm not an atheist, I'm a Methodist.
Okay.
So, your opinion, what do you think?
Well,
We can do religion.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly think he did something, from my perspective, that was very brave. He said, I'm no longer able to function in this job, and the church needs a vibrant individual, and he walked away. And so I think that's, at least on a personal level, as I looked at it, I thought, what a wonderful thing to be able to do and say.
And I like Pope John. I mean, but at the end, drooling. He should have gone. I think Benedict did. And by the way, I had a friend, Todd Feinberg, who did radio.
Yeah, I know of him. I met him a few times.
Yeah, and he had, when Benedict said he was leaving, he had an interview with Ray Flynn, who was the
former ambassador to the Vatican. Yeah,
correct.
Yeah.
And he used to fly around with a pope and a pope-to-be.
Right.
And what a great interview! What a great time to time that.
Right.
To do that.
I'd like to hear that. I haven't heard Ray Flynn, the former mayor of Boston, former ambassador. I haven't heard him being interviewed
Except
in a long time. He's
he,
got to be pretty old.
But he's also drinking the water. I think what did he do? He backed a Republican, and he's a Democrat.
Just as you get older, these get a little bit more sensible.
You get senile.
I've been known to comment on that transition.
Well, I would take it we're coming down to probably the last couple minutes. I've got to be a little sharper with you. And also, you're so good how you segue into something else. You're very good at this.
Oh, no.
You'll get better, but I'm going to get better too.
The conversation leads us where it needs to go, don't you think?
Yes. I thought these shows will get a little bit more probably heated. And I want people to know I was criticized for throwing softballs to this gentleman sitting here. The Democrats are not happy with me, by the way, but you want to know something? I like good TV. And besides that, where can you question an individual like yourself? Try to find out what's going on in your mind. And because let's face it, the influence that you've had over the state in the last 2 years is paramount.
We'll plan to have some guests on too. I think that'd be just maybe we can get, you mentioned before, Representative Campbell, but there's many folks out there that I think can add some dimension to what we're talking about.
Oh, I think we're doing very good without guests, but we will have guests.
Right.
But we might not have a full hour, because I have a feeling you and I we'll probably go at it. Telephone number or your Facebook address or?
Well, again, as I said before, if people want to reach me, they certainly can. Probably the best way in terms of reaching me, because I am out and about all the time, is my email address, and that's my name spelled out, William L. O'Brien, no periods, no apostrophe, William L. O'Brien @gmail.com.
And you're on Facebook?
I am on Facebook. I am. If you want to be a friend, I need friends.
Yeah,
Facebook,
we all need friends.
Right.
Last week you did mention that I was on Chronicle, and Norelli, the speaker, did put an email out to everyone. You can go to Chronicle and see it. Anybody who would like to see it. And I'm not, it's kind of funny. I'm not looking at it as if it was me. The way they put it together, they really did a good job.
Great.
They should be commended. And as I said, not necessarily for the person they interviewed, but the way they put it together. And I am on Facebook, and I would like to be befriended. You can also go to my website, which is gidgeworld.com. Email address, Can you imagine, not many years ago, we just say hi, goodbye, you know.
Right,
nobody-
right.
well, my email address is kgidge, that's KGIDGE, @AOL.com. Cell phone, if you would like to call for any reason at all. I will come to your house. It's very expensive if you want me to, oh no. The telephone number is area code 603-864-9332. And again, this hasn't been a bad show.
It's been very good. Ken, just one warning. I have a defriend finder on my Facebook, so I'll catch you if you defriend me after one of these exchanges.
Yeah, I
there.
know. Okay. We'll see you. Thank you very much.